Hey, what's up everybody? This is Alex Molina93 here. Today's gonna be my reaction to Angry Video Game Nerd Wishlist Part 1 Episode 116. And this was suggested by Andy Kishore and Max Livingstone. So a big shout out for both of you. So without further ado, let's get started, shall we? Alright, here we go. 1, 2, 3.
He's playing some games, the
I
worst
finally have a wireless mouse with me.
Gonna find out which one sucked the most balls. The angry video game nerd is here.
Yeah.
Oh, he's
Apparently,
making a
Santa Claus is
list
coming
and
to town.
checking it twice. He's gonna go home and eat chicken and rice. The angry video game nerd is here. He hates the games
Home
that
Alone.
stink. He
Great
knows
movies,
which
but bad
games to break. He just might even hate them.
I do remember that.
all,
I have to do the reaction of the Winter Games.
You better watch out, don't give these games a try.
Oh, I
You
do
better
remember
not play
when he
them,
did a
he's
parody of
telling
The
you
Grinch.
why. The angry video game nerd is here.
Yeah.
Back in the 80s, our parents didn't order our Christmas presents online because the internet didn't exist yet. Back then, it was all about catalogs. Every major department store like Sears and JCPenney will put out these holiday wish books. So every year, it was a tradition to browse through these books and circle all the things that you wanted Santa to bring you.
Yeah. JCPenney, Snoopy. I mean, it's cool to see some of the pictures
Everything you
for
could
things that you
possibly
wanted as a
imagine
kid
was in these
back then.
books. There were video
I used to
games,
do that
of
back
course.
then,
You
too.
see all kinds of crap like the Rollin' Rocker and Dr.
Oh.
Jekyll and Mr. Hyde for
Oh.
$39.87. That's
You
criminal.
mentioned that game again.
Speaking of prices, it's
After all
funny
the
that at
reactions
some
I
point
did.
the NES and the Atari 7800 were both the same price. For the 7800, it says it has super responsive joysticks because they knew the Atari 5200 controllers were pieces of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, having a responsive controller is kind of a necessity, wouldn't you say? Also, Super 8 cameras and VHS cameras coexisted. A new VHS camera could
I
cost
do remember those
$1,000
cameras.
bucks. Yeah, being able to record yourself with actual footage was a luxury. My family always had to rent one. There were action figures, you had Ninja Turtles, Inhumanoids, the real Ghostbusters, as well as the other Ghostbusters that nobody gave a shit about. There was the giant G.I. Joe aircraft carrier, all kinds of toys, everything. You can tell that the people who photographed these action figures didn't know anything about them. Like, why is Lion-O and Mumra riding together in the Thunder Tank? And
I
why
have no
is
idea.
laser spelled with quotes? Did Dr. Evil write this? I can't do these books justice. I highly recommend that if you can find one of them, take a look through. It's really a trip. When I say everything was in these books, I mean literally everything. Science stuff, horses, jewelry, lingerie. You turn from a page with kitty stuff to see tobacco. These
I
books
also
were
do remember
mostly
the
for
VHS.
kids to tell their parents what they want.
Yep.
There were even coloring pages in there. But then there were things like knives and guns. That's terrible that a kid would be flipping through and see that. You'd go from a page that has all kinds of kitty sleeping bags, and right on the other side of the page is a gun cabinet. Right underneath the Mario sleeping bag is an assortment of guns, and there were lots of them. Back to the video games. A lot of times the descriptions were questionable. For Zelda, it said, "Gather crystals to stop warlords." That's the worst description to Zelda I've ever heard.
Yeah,
Karate
me
Kid
too.
on the NES had the wrong screenshot.
I agree.
Where'd they get that from? That's not the Karate Kid. For Ghostbusters on Sega Master System, it says "scare up some fun." Oh, you bet. And it retains the typo Gorza instead of Gozer. Then we get to the
Misinformation.
Tiger games. Oh my. You're at the wheel for all the high-speed thrills of real racing, full of exciting action, true-to-life graphics and sound effects. Are you fucking kidding me? There was no telling if the games were good or not. If it made it into the same catalog as Zelda, you assumed it would be awesome. Like I mentioned, this was the BI era before internet. There were no online game reviews to tell you when a game sucked the big one. It was all a crapshoot. All you had was a screenshot, a weak description, and sometimes word of mouth. we would usually gravitate towards games that had some kind of reputation. Skate or Die was one of those, a game dedicated to skateboarding and hosted by Rodney Dangerfield with a mohawk. Even if you didn't know anything about skateboarding, you wanted to be part of the culture. You wanted to be hip. Just as essential as it was to wear bright neon colors and listen to glam rock, you had to at least try to skateboard. If you weren't good at it, you'd fall on your face and hurt yourself. Then you'd go play this game and punish yourself even more.
Nah,
All you do
I would
is
rather
fall,
play the
fall,
Tony
and
Hawk
fall.
games.
The only way to play decent at it is to master its awkward controls. It's like teaching yourself to walk backwards on a tightrope. And once you do get good at the 5 mini games, you realize that's all it is. 2 different half-pipe competitions, jousting, and a time trial and a race, which are so short you can finish them in less than a minute. Almost every kid had this game in their collection at some point. It had cool music, a catchy slogan, and signified everything that was rad about the 80s. But the game was fucking shit. Shit that we held with passion.
Doesn't look fun.
Skate or Die? Looking back, I wish I chose the latter.
And I imagine Tony Hawk the Ride being better than this.
Bad Dudes, or Bad Dude as this wish book called it. Just the name bad meant that it had to be good.
Is this
More
supposed
proof
to be
that
a
we had
beat 'em up?
everything screwed up. It's a monotonous button masher with choppy movement, lousy hit detection, and back-ass controls.
Oh
It's
my
another
God.
one of those games where B and A are switched, meaning B is jump and A is attack, and you know how it should normally be. Sure, it was early in the age of beat-em-up
Does look
games,
choppy.
so at the time it was awesome and macho. Playing this game was a symbol that you were a real man. But it hasn't aged well. It just makes you want to play Final Fight 3 instead.
Yep.
Still, it has a
For real.
legacy and has one
Or
of the
Streets
most
of Rage.
famous opening screens of all time. Are you a bad enough dude to rescue the president? Bad. Like, what was it with that? Maybe we could blame Michael
Very
Jackson
cheesy.
for making the word bad so awesome, but we should have never listened to Lucas about the Power Glove. In some cases, bad really meant it. One that's always been on my personal hate list is Karate Champ. This is one that was just as horrible back then as it is now. It's an
Some
early
of these
example
games
of
I
a one-on-one
haven't heard
fighting
of.
game, but good lord did they fuck it up. In all the years I've revisited this game, I have never figured out how to consciously do any of the moves. I just mash buttons and see what happens. The instruction manual tries to make sense of it all, but it's way too complicated and there's nothing intuitive about it.
Yeah,
Hitting your
how can you
opponent
memorize
happens
all
at
of that?
pure random. Most of the time you miss. It's not like he's blocking. Your fists and feet are going right through him, as if you're fighting a ghost. It's hard enough to hit your opponent, but it's even more difficult to keep yourself facing him. It seems like there's certain moves that turn yourself around. Why would the game allow you to face the other direction? Rarely have I ever been able to do the same move again to reorient myself, so I usually end up jumping all over the place just to get myself back in the proper direction. Turn around! Ah!
Very unresponsive, I imagine.
These controls are on the same level as Conan, Winter Games, and Dark Castle, but on closer evaluation, I think it beats them all. The worst fucking controls in existence. And there's no variety,
Damn.
except for a bonus stage where all kinds of shit flies at you. It's a hopeless situation. Other than that, you fight the same opponent the whole game. In fact, there's no difference between the two characters. It's the same guy fighting the same guy for all eternity. Sure, the backgrounds change, but it doesn't affect the gameplay at all. Even the characters don't seem to
The game
exist in
doesn't
the
look
same
that
dimension
creative
as
either.
these backgrounds. No matter the perspective or the lighting condition, they remain unchanged. How a piece of junk like this got released will always be a mystery. Even as a rental, it was a waste of time.
Yeah, not worth
Well, in the
playing.
tradition of wish lists, my fans have had a wish list of their own of games they've been wanting me to cover. So
That's cool.
it's time to answer some of those requests. Let's reach into the stocking, dig underneath the lumps of coal, and go straight for
Sonic.
the shit nuggets. The request I hear all the time is the bad Sonic the Hedgehog games.
Maybe they were requesting
What bad
Sonic 06.
Sonic games?
Or, well,
The Sonic
There are
the
some
Hedgehog
bad
games
Sonic
were
games.
awesome. It was Sega's flagship
Sonic
franchise.
Boom, Sonic
Even
06,
though it didn't have
Shadow
as
the
much
Hedgehog,
variety as the Mario
Sonic
games,
Free Riders.
it made Nintendo fans turn their heads. Sonic 2 was the game that made me buy a Sega Genesis. These
Yeah,
games
really
boasted
great games.
fast-scrolling action, colorful graphics, and delightful music. The character was hip and cocky, and it was so much fun to make him run and bounce all over the place. So what are all these bad Sonic
Yeah,
games
back
that
when
everyone's
Sonic
talking
was
about?
way more
Well,
famous
I
than
took
right
a
now.
deeper look. Here's Sonic Blast on Game Gear. Ugh, there's no blast processing with this one. Come on, come on, come on!
Oh my god, no.
Sonic Blast? Should have been called Sonic Slow Ass. Not much else
Yeah.
to say, just a poor man's version of Sonic.
That is a right name
Then
for the
there's
game.
Sonic Labyrinth. This one experiments with a 3D perspective, but fails. The controls are messy, Sonic's walk is tedious, and doing the spin move only sends him ramming into a wall, unless you get it down just right. Anyway, these are portable games. What do you expect? This is back when the convenience of taking a game with you on a trip often meant compromising
Yeah,
its
this is one of the
playability.
Sonic games that I would not play either.
Then there's Sonic R on the Sega
I've heard
Saturn,
mixed
which
reviews
I've also
about
been told
this
is
game.
terrible.
Some people like it, some people don't.
Oh man,
That's
they're
from
right.
what I hear.
It's basically a racing game, sort of a shitty version of Mario Kart. The steering is so unresponsive that I
I
can
do
barely
admit that the
stay
music
on the
is
track.
great, but
Oh,
the game
come on,
itself
come
doesn't
on.
look that
And
all
I'm
that
always
intriguing.
afraid that it's going to glitch out, that I'm going to fall through the boundaries and into the unprogrammed area of limbo. Another one I've been told about is Sonic Shuffle on Dreamcast. That's right, the last of the Sega consoles, and a good console to go out with. But the same can't be said for
I love the
this game.
Dreamcast.
After you get through about 10 minutes of story footage and tiresome load screens, the game finally begins, only to
This
bombard
looks like
you with
Mario
more
Party.
text. Just as I thought, it's a board game video game, with some mediocre mini-games in between players' turns. Basically, this is Sega's take on Mario Party.
Yeah.
But unfortunately,
It
didn't
looks
turn
more
out
like
as
Mario
well.
Party.
Another big request
Oh,
is
yeah.
Shadow the
I
Hedgehog
remember
on
this
the
game.
Nintendo GameCube.
My cousin has
a
it.
Sega game on a
I didn't like
Nintendo
it.
console? Cats and dogs living
I mean,
together.
I do like
mass
Shadow the
hysteria.
Hedgehog, the
Sega
character
and Nintendo
himself,
were the
but the
biggest
game itself,
competitors of my
nah.
generation.
I don't know.
But times have changed. I don't even know who Shadow is, and when did characters in Sonic games start carrying guns?
Haven't you played
Once
Sonic
again,
Adventure
you have
1
to
and
sit through a
2?
movie before
mean,
the
just
game
curious.
starts. It's pretty spectacular, but why is it always like this now? Is that what
Well,
kids do nowadays?
the
sit
video games
around and
nowadays,
watch
they
video
do have
games?
cutscenes.
You take
so
control
they
of
have
Shadow
stories.
with Sonic following behind. You run, you jump, you shoot. It's pretty self-explanatory. I think it's much more fun than the other games, but I find it a little tough
no.
to avoid losing my rings all
I'd rather
the time.
play Sonic 06
This
than
homing
this.
attack tends to get me killed, and I keep falling down pits. Other than that, I don't have much to say about it. I feel like I just awoke from a frozen sleep. Last I knew, Sonic games were in 2D, Nintendo and Sega were rivals, guns were for Contra, Sonic's nemesis was called Dr. Robotnik, now he's going by Dr. Eggman Diddy Daddy, villain formerly known as whatever. What the hell happened here?
Well,
This
the
is
times
about
have
as new
changed
as I'll go.
for the Sonic
Sorry,
franchise.
I'm going back to NES. That's what I know best. One of my biggest NES requests
Oh, yeah,
since
Where's
day
Waldo?
one is Where's Waldo? First, you have to be familiar with the
I've
books.
heard about the
They
books.
were incredible. As a kid, I stare at these pages for hours. The illustrations were amazing, and there was so much going on, it could keep your eyes busy exploring for a long time. Of course, the objective was to find Waldo amongst other hidden things.
Yep,
Well, how do you take this and turn it into an NES game?
I don't know.
This is what happens. It's as if the pages of the book have been chewed
no.
up, digested, and shat out an 8-bit ass.
Yeah,
How can you find
it does
Waldo
look
in
like
this? Where the fuck is Waldo?
I don't
He
know.
doesn't even know where he is. And that's all you do. You just move the square around the screen
But
and hit the
which-
button if you think Waldo is
Who
in
is
that
Waldo?
area. Even when I do find him, I still don't
But
know
which
which
one is
one he's
Waldo?
supposed to be. It's really not hard anyway. You can just keep trying every space on the screen until you win. The
Wow.
only thing that happens if you pick the wrong area, you lose time on the timer. But it still seems like a better option to guess your way through the game rather than actually trying to find Waldo with your own eyes.
Is that all
In
they
between
can
the
think
stages, you're forced
Wow.
into watching Waldo walk from one place to the next. And he never walks in a straight line. He just wanders all over the place, like he doesn't have a clue where he's going. Why do we need this cutscene anyway? Couldn't
why
we
is
just go
this
straight to
necessary?
the next stage?
Unnecessary.
There's a few stages that are different, like finding Waldo in the dark, a crappy slot machine, and one of those indescribable shit shows that reminds me of that part in Terminator 2 on Game Boy where you have to connect the wires, or that fucking nightmare in Bill and Ted. And once you've completed all the stages, Waldo goes to the moon and the game's over. I finished the whole game in 6 minutes.
Imagine buying this piece of shit for $50. Nowadays, releasing a game this short would never be excusable.
Yeah,
So anyway,
it's
we have a lot more
unacceptable
games to get
for a
through, so
price like
stay
that.
tuned for part 2.
If a
I'm
game
gonna go
is
get
that
games.
short. I mean, depending. Yeah, I'm like that when I forgot something and I try to remember what to do. To be continued. Yep, I'll react to part 2. So there you go, guys. That is my reaction to Angry Video Game Nerd Wishlist Part 1, Episode 116. Such a cool episode. I really did enjoy it. It's cool that AVGN takes the requests from fans for the reviews for his next episodes. And yeah, I mean, it's cool that he covers some of the games that the fans requested him to do. Yeah, some of the first games that he mentioned, they don't look that fun at all, and I would not play them. And especially Where's Waldo? I mean, you would rather search for Waldo on the book than in the video game. As for the Sonic games, we did have some bad Sonic games like Sonic 06, Shadow the Hedgehog, Sonic Freerider, Sonic Boom, and some of the games that he mentioned like Sonic Blast and Sonic Labyrinth. As for Sonic R, I've heard mixed feelings about that game. I would not play that, but I do like the music. As for Shadow the Hedgehog, I do like the Some Call Me Johnny review of Shadow the Hedgehog a lot more than this. I mean, AVGN brought some good points of Shadow the Hedgehog, but he didn't review much of the game itself. Yeah, I tried that game, I did not like it, but I do like Shadow's character. But outside of that, nah. I mean, some of the songs that Shadow the Hedgehog has, they're alright, I could say. And yes, I'm aware that he did a review of Sonic 06, Part 1 and 2. I'll react to those later in the future. Well, yeah, that's all for what it is. So yeah, it is what it is. Such a cool episode, and hope you guys did enjoy it as well. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. If you want to check out Cinemassacre, Angry Video Game Nerd, and the episode, I'll put the links in the description below, and better subscribe to him. Make sure to subscribe to my channel for more videos to come for you guys to enjoy. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and a like button below. And comment in the section below, what do you guys think about Angry Video Game Nerd Wishlist Part 1? Do you like it or not? It is your choice. So, thank you so much for watching. Have a nice day. Peace. Just like that.